Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Demystifying Microsoft Podcast. I'm Nathan Taylor, and today my guest is Lindsay Cowan, who leads our sales team. How are you doing today, Lindsay?
I am good. Thanks for having me, Nathan.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. As you guys know, we're here to make Microsoft simple, strategic, and scalable for your business. We break down what's happening across the Microsoft ecosystem so you can stay informed, make smarter decisions, get the most out of your technology investments. And today we're talking about GoDaddy and Microsoft 365. So, Lindsay, tell me why we want to talk about GoDaddy and Microsoft 365.
Yes, and I am so excited about this topic because it's something that we are seeing all the time, right? So when a lot of organizations are first looking into tools for their business, there's so many options out there. It's overwhelming. GoDaddy is a one-stop shop and they offer a variety of solutions with the domain hosting, marketing tools, email, Microsoft apps. So it's a really great place for organizations to establish their online presence, especially because you can do it quickly and efficiently. So it's a phenomenal solution for so many organizations out there. But as organizations grow, there are some limitations there, right? So today we'll kind of go over, why an organization may want to explore breaking ties with the GoDaddy Microsoft 365 suites. But Nathan, I know you started an organization back in the day and you used GoDaddy, right? So tell me what that was like.
Yeah, when you're kicking off, starting up a business, you've got so many things to solve, right? You got to get your LLC and figure out what the state needs, and do you need a federal tax ID and bank accounts? And the bank account, the bank wants these things, and you've got so many things you're trying to figure out: logos and websites, and what's my domain, and how am I going to represent myself to the world, and how do I, you know, legal agreements, and how do I make up, contracts? I mean, just the list is endless. Accounting systems, you name it. And I think GoDaddy resonates with people because you can go on there, search for your domain, click one button in the ordering process. I like this domain. Yes, give me a basic website. Yes, give me email and Office 365. And in one fell swoop with one credit card number for one low price, you've got it all done in literally 5 minutes. And as a startup, you're looking for those quick wins, right? You're really trying to solve that. And so I think a lot of people get stuck in that spot where they're like, hey, I did that at the beginning, and they get busy running their business, and 3 years later they got 100 employees and they're still on GoDaddy's version of Office 365.
I know you're going to love this one, and I know what the answer is, but are you familiar with Spider-Man and the MCU?
Of course, I love Marvel. They're one of the best movies. Come on.
I know, and I knew this was right up your alley, but we can really think about GoDaddy's Microsoft 365 offerings like Spider-Man and Spider-Man Homecoming, right? So he's got the suit that Tony Stark gave him. It's powerful, easy to use, and it does a lot of the heavy lifting for him. And he doesn't have to worry about all the little details. That's kind of how GoDaddy bundles everything, right? So the domain, the emails, the apps, you hit the nail on the head with your previous experience. But in Spider-Man Homecoming, as Peter matures, he starts to realize that he needs more control over his tools. He also just wants to make his own decisions, and he's ready to let go of those training wheels. And so by the time Spider-Man No Way Home rolls around, he's building his own suit, right? And he's managing his own choices and becoming a full-fledged Avenger. So that's what it's like as a business grows and companies grow. You're ready to take full control over your Microsoft tools and solutions. And that's when a defederation and working with a CSP partner like SourceFast comes into play.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't know that what GoDaddy is selling is it is a version of Microsoft 365. It's Microsoft Code. It's a subset of the features, but it is not full Microsoft 365, right? It's Microsoft's given them kind of a slightly older, more limited version that they can sell in a number of more limited SKUs. And so you get to that point where you want to, you know, Maybe it's some of the tools you want to add. You want to start adding on some of those additional features like a Copilot, for some AI, or, you really want to go, hook it up to an Azure virtual desktop and want to run that hybrid license for some of those more advanced workloads. And it's just not the same product as a full Microsoft. And so people start to really feel the difficulty of being kind of stuck in the GoDaddy version of Microsoft 365. That really limits them. And there's also pricing considerations, Lindsay, right? There's some differences in how the prices are set on that front.
Absolutely. And the license types offered as well. So, I think GoDaddy does a really great job of getting organizations started at a really great price point. But after that first year commitment, there's typically a pretty large jump. And it's more expensive than what you typically see on the Microsoft side, even through a CSP partner like us, because we charge the same as Microsoft. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught it, but I threw out the term defederation in my analogy there. So I know you explained GoDaddy's flavor of Microsoft 365, but that flavor also means that a Microsoft tenant through GoDaddy is federated because the process of which removing that is a defederation. What does a federated tenant mean?
Yeah, federation is a term in a Microsoft world where it's your tenant is connected to something else. So, like for example, we have some customers that run the full Microsoft 365 suite, but maybe their identity is run in Okta. When Okta runs your identity, that's called federated identity. You've taken that piece and given it to somebody else, and that's actually a really good similarity to what GoDaddy's doing. They're running a subset of Microsoft's data set through their interface. So you manage it through their website. Your identity is actually managed on the GoDaddy side, your passwords and all that. And so it's kind of a layer bolted on top. And so what's really interesting about that, though, is that I think the idea of moving away from GoDaddy scares people because they're like, hey, migration, what are you going to, is my data got to move? Is there going to be disruption? And in this case, because it's federated, there's actually some tools where we can go and we can say, hey, GoDaddy, defederate, pull your fingers out of this tenant and let it go live free as a full Microsoft tenant. And we know how to walk through that process. And by doing that process, it only takes literally a matter of, a few minutes, a couple hours of planning, and then some code and some effort. And then before you know it, you have a full tenant. You can do all the things a normal Microsoft tenant. You're a real boy now. You got all that capability. So it's not a complex process, and it doesn't have a lot of risk. It's not rebuilding everything. The big disruption customers see is that your passwords are going to get reset for your users, and that's really the main one of two things we have to work through. One is helping everybody get logged back in after the change, because that's the first thing. And then I think the second thing then is to get Microsoft licenses in place to get you on the SKUs that you now have access to on the Microsoft side.
I like to think of a password reset as a minor inconvenience, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have done so many of these defederations. Our engineering team has this down to a T. And what we find from a lot of customers who are looking at an opportunity to move away, other partners are typically suggesting a migration,
Yep.
which means that you are actually moving data from the Microsoft tenant you have with GoDaddy today into a net new tenant. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of risk for permissions not moving over properly or data loss, and it's much more of a impact and a negative experience for your end users than a password reset, right?
Yes.
So I don't think that's a big deal whatsoever. And I think most of our clients who've gone through the process would definitely agree.
Yeah, it's really seamless. It's really great how smooth it is. And the best part is we also can help you with your license commitments, because one of the things you mentioned early on is, right, GoDaddy is really cheap that first 12 months. And like everybody, they like to get everybody to commit to 12 months worth of service. That's how you get the discount. That's how GoDaddy, wants to have that revenue locked up, just like Microsoft does. Everybody's going for a 12-month commit. But sometimes these businesses realize that they're 3 months into their next 12-month commit with GoDaddy and they're ready to move. They've got a technical or a logical reason where they want to get off the GoDaddy limited tenant into a full Microsoft tenant, and they're like, well, I got 8 months left to commit with GoDaddy. And if you've got 8 months left of a 100 user commit with GoDaddy, that's a lot of money to walk away from, right? Of like, hey, I can't pay for this 8 months of service with 2 services. I need 1 license to pay for. We have a couple ways that we can help you through that, and most of the time we can get find ways to navigate you around that so that you're no longer paying 2 bills, but we're able to quickly move you into just the Microsoft bill and not have that commitment stick on the GoDaddy side. And we'd be happy to talk with you more about that offline. I want to be careful what we put on the internet on that side, but we have lots of really good options on that front, and um, just reach out if you'd like to find out more about that.
One other thing that we see a lot as well. So when you create the Microsoft account through GoDaddy, they automatically create a Microsoft tenant name. So a Microsoft tenant is essentially your business's account with Microsoft, and GoDaddy automatically sets the domain to be net.org in a bunch of random numbers .onmicrosoft.com. And while that is not typically visible to many unless you're an admin accessing the admin portal, it's visible in SharePoint links, so you
Yep.
may see it there, but really it's not much of a big deal. We do also have the ability to change your tenant name, which is really cool. I'd say half the time organizations, and there's no in between on this, right? Half the time organizations say, I do not care whatsoever. I will keep it as is. The other half are like, I need to change this immediately. The net.org does not reflect my company
Yep.
and what we're doing. We need to change it. So it's pretty interesting to see the 2 sides of the spectrum, but just for companies knowing that that is an option, if it is an irk for you, we can absolutely take care of that.
Yeah, it's great. Microsoft enabled that functionality 2 or 3 years ago, because that's been a problem even for people not defetting. You build your business and maybe you get acquired or you have a big rename, or you just built it in a time when you weren't thinking through having to read that SharePoint URL in every URL you sent for the rest of your business's history, and you decide you don't like the way that's written. Um, Not only in these GoDaddy cases, but in any business that's not happy with their SharePoint URL, it's absolutely something we can help you change. That definitely is a great thing for a lot of people. They're really happy to get away from an old URL, and certainly been a part of a couple of those where unfortunate naming conventions happen and people are very excited to move on.
I want to put myself back in your shoes when you were starting your company with GoDaddy. Where exactly in the company journey would the point be where someone would say, maybe I should consider a defederation? What are some of the reasons why someone would even explore that as an option other than, I'm growing too big, I need to let the training wheels go? What are some of the things that we see there?
Yeah, outside of some of the cost management we talked about, where generally Microsoft's going to be more cost effective, that's a big motivator. But I think most of the time it's a feature set issue. Microsoft has built these small business SKUs for under 300 seat businesses that are an incredible value. You look at Business Premium, it's $40 or $50 worth of Microsoft capability for $22 a month. It's just a staggering value. And they keep adding features that small businesses are starting to realize that they want to consolidate into Microsoft. I can use it for my antivirus and endpoint protection. I could use it as my spam filter. I don't need a Proofpoint or another tool. Microsoft's got AI-based Defender for Office 365. I can use it as my mobile device management. I can do Intune. I can manage phones. And a lot of those features I just talked about, email filtering, compliance needs, they're not available in the GoDaddy product. It's really an email and productivity product, not a full security suite, a device management suite. And so it's usually some of those technical needs. You're realizing that you could consolidate 2 or 3 tools and 2 or 3 business needs from a technology perspective into that Microsoft stack and have one pane of glass to manage so many things. And that really, I think, often drives a lot of the outcomes. And I think the other tool that's going to drive a lot of them is one of your favorite tools, Lindsay. So let's talk about how much you love Copilot and how that should motivate a lot of people to want to switch.
Copilot is a game changer. And I'll start on the end user experience because I think probably the most valuable part of Copilot is the commercial security. But as an end user, my productivity has skyrocketed. And never mind, Nathan. No, it hasn't. I'm not being more productive, right? Not taking a 15-minute longer lunch, not at all. But it also helps keep me organized. Each day I log in, I have Copilot create me a to-do list based on my unread emails, my Teams chats, based on priority, right? It makes life so much easier. So many of our clients as well will use a lot of the features with Teams recordings and the note taking, being able to go back
Yes.
in a meeting and ask follow-up questions about what was discussed. It's huge. So I am, of course, a big fan, but tell everyone a little bit about the security aspect around it.
Yeah, everybody wants to use AI, right? And so everyone's like, oh, let's get AI. But do you want, somebody using DeepSeek AI from China on your company data? It's a legitimate question. It's not just fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's a thing you need to deal with. What if people are uploading stuff to Anthropic or, you name it, all these different, AI solutions out there? As a business, you lose control of your data as soon as it's uploaded to those services. And so I think there is a big value in saying, I'm standardizing on Microsoft's product because they have guaranteed that the data that's uploaded within your tenant to Copilot stays inside of your tenant. So there's a real confidence you have that your users can use AI in a safe and responsible way. This idea that we're going to tell people not to use AI, I think, is just really hard to believe that that's going to be effective. I just think people are just going to use it. It's available in the web search. It's available in your browser, on your phone. Every app's got an AI button. You need to give them, responsible and safe and approved versions of AI to do it. And you don't even have to buy all the Copilot licenses to get a lot of that functionality. There's a Copilot chat. That's available to all users now. There's a Copilot search that's just the Copilot web interface for searching and asking questions that's free to all Microsoft 365 users. And then, of course, there's the paid license you were talking about that adds all the functionality in Teams and PowerPoint and emails and helping you get organized. I love the ability to quickly generate documents. I had it generate a job description the other day that legitimately would have taken me 2 or 3 hours, and it took 15 minutes because it generated a really good, honestly, really good job description that I went and tweaked like 2 sentences in, and I was happy with it. Or you got to go make a PowerPoint off of a document, a 50-page document you need a PowerPoint from, and Copilot, 5 minutes later, you've got a 15-page PowerPoint presentation. That's wonderful. That you'll want to tweak some details and confirm it's all exactly what you want to communicate. But the time savings is legitimate. And, we're not even getting into all the stuff Microsoft is talking about really driving forward for that next generation, which is Copilot agents. This idea that I can build an agent that knows, maybe I have a SharePoint directory with all of my sales information, all my sales, flows and best practices and quote templates and pricing lists. You can go give that to a Copilot agent and have a virtual agent that can ask questions about sales. And sometimes these things are going to be game changers. There's HR agents. There's agents that are going to automate processes inside your business. Microsoft is betting big on this to the tune of $100 billion. And I think there's going to be some really cool stuff that comes out. And getting off GoDaddy is going to give you an opportunity to start exploring that and leveraging that sort of stuff. And I think that ties into the other thing. It's just once you're out of GoDaddy's ecosystem into Microsoft, it opens all the doors. Do you want to go look at Dynamics CRM or Dynamics ERP? Do you want to look at Purview for data management or all these things? Or you want to build some stuff in Azure? Well, Azure's great when it's integrated with your Office 365 for AVD and all these features. And those doors all open by getting into the full Microsoft tenants and out of the GoDaddy version of it. It just opens a lot of doors.
Absolutely. And, Microsoft has so many exciting things on the radar. So I guess basically what you're saying is if I'm with GoDaddy, I can't use any of that, right?
That's correct. There's a lot of that's locked down. It's a very limited feature set, really focused around email, productivity and some email security. It's a very small subset of Microsoft's capabilities in those tenants. So
Yeah. And so before, our session today, I actually reached out to a client of ours, Stephanie. So shout out to you, Stephanie, if you're listening at all. But we performed a Defederation for their team about a year and a half ago, and they have 300 employees. They're in the healthcare space. And so, I just did a quick follow-up and I asked her a couple questions, like, why were you interested in exploring a Defederation? And they were thinking migration first. So it was a huge relief to their team to hear about this easy process. But you already talked about this. She had mentioned security, right? Like, we want to implement some security features and we have no control over the admin portal. The second was the types of roles they have in their organization. It was very expensive and didn't make much sense for a lot of their team members who are
yes,
on the hospital floor each day, and doctors to have full licenses because they're not using all of those tools.
right,
So Microsoft offers frontline tools, competitive price point, making sure that your team members have the tools they need, not less, but not anything more that's going to waste.
right.
But the third thing she said, which, was extremely helpful and I think will resonate with others as well, is that she wanted a long-term IT strategy, right? And with GoDaddy, that just was not an option. So yes, she wanted to think about some immediate email security, data governance, information protection around what they have today, but long-term, they were just stuck because they couldn't take care of a lot of the things they needed to within the admin portal, which goes back to exactly what you said about all those exciting Microsoft announcements and tools coming out.
Well, that's great feedback from her. I mean, it's cool to see that it works so well for her. And I think that's a really good example. I think a lot of companies just all of a sudden wake up one day and go, man, we're a big company and we need to think more maturely. And I think there's a lot of maybe shame and fear of like, well, I'm stuck on GoDaddy now. It's going to be really disruptive to my business. And so I think just to put that to rest, to recap our conversation here, there's a lot of value in moving off of GoDaddy 365 and into real Microsoft 365. Defederation is not disruptive. It's really just a back-end settings change, some password resets, and we're off to the races. And so you don't need to feel shame. You don't need to be afraid of the process. We'll help you through it. If you're stuck in a commitment to GoDaddy that you're worried about, we'll help you through that. We have some options there, so reach out. We'll continue to your DNS can stay, your website can stay on GoDaddy. It doesn't disrupt any of that. That stays there. It works great as a DNS and web host, and a large chunk of our customers are still on GoDaddy for their website and their DNS, and that works just fine in those scenarios. So reach out to us. We'd love to walk you through it, kind of talk through the upside, help you understand your options, and get you moved on to the green pastures on the other side, the nice Windows XP hill of green grass.
Absolutely. And Nathan, can I close this out with a joke for you?
Sure.
Okay. Why did the company want to defederate from GoDaddy?
I don't know, Lindsay, why?
Because their teams needed some more control.
Well done. Well done. Very funny. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in today to the Demystifying Microsoft podcast. We're just getting started. Be sure to describe. See, I'm fumbling my words here. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. We'll be bringing in Microsoft experts to break down the latest and greatest from Azure to Microsoft Security to AI and Copilot. We got you covered. Follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, and head over to sourcepassmcoe.com to subscribe and get even more insights and resources. All the links we mentioned today are in the episode description. And I think by the next episode, I'll be able to say the word subscribe successfully. So we'll see how that goes. But today, that word is not accessible to me. So, well, thanks for joining me today, Lindsay. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And we'll talk to you guys next time.